Kids who say that their upbringing was traumatic, as parents do parents owe them an explanation for that?
I mean, if you know that as a parent you did the best that you could do with the tools that you had. I mean, God never said that parents would be perfect. No, parents make a ton of mistakes. I think the key thing is communication. But if your child grow up and they become now a young adult or a grown adult and they come to you with something that affected them in their childhood, you absolutely owe an explanation. That conversation, they're asking you a question. If you don't feel like you did anything wrong, or you feel like, well, I did the best that I could. Okay, I understand single parents. You know, my mom for a long time was a single mom, and she worked. But if her working so much, I felt the absent, like that she was an absent parent, that would affect me. And I might come back and holler at her and be like, well, you know, I understand that you provided us with the best lifestyle, Mom. Like, I never wanted for anything or needed anything. But it would have been nice to have my mom.
I understand what Rickey Smiley was speaking to, but I felt like he was speaking to a certain type of kid, or he was speaking to a certain type of parent who's dealing with a certain type of kid.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
It seems like in that video, he was talking about a parent who has a disrespectful kid, and that kid's tone is very argumentative or very disrespectful, because he mentioned, like, you know, you getting these crazy ass text messages and phone calls where they disrespect you, or they, you know, giving off vibes like they don't appreciate you or you weren't good enough. Well, block their ass then. Don't let them stress you out. Stress kills people. And so a lot of what he was saying, I completely understand that. Now, but we know there's a double-sided coin to this, right? There's always a flip side. So we have a lot of the kids who are adults now who recognize that they have traumas, and they recognize, yeah, I understand there's no perfect parents, but you had some flaws. Like, you had some things that wasn't right in the way that you parented us, and I got trauma now because of it. I'm affected by my friendships, my relationships, and I can't shake it. And it's difficult for me to connect. So I'm trying to come back to the source. And they feel like you as the parent are avoiding accountability. Like, I'm trying to have a conversation with you about how I feel and how you made me feel growing up. I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards you, but you're not even open to the conversation. I did the best I could. I did the best I could. I don't owe no explanation to no grown-ass kids. I did the best that I could, and you just need to get over it. Or I can't change the past.
But it's sad. It's the lack of accountability, ignorance.
You're listening to For Real Though, hottest new podcast in the streets.
Keeping it hot.
With your host Jimmy Rills, co-host Queen Nesha.
You know it's gonna be hot.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel and smash that bell icon for notifications. Do it. Like, comment, and tap in now. Now For Real Though.
What up? Welcome to For Real Though. It's your boy Jimmy Rills, aka Mr. King Energy. We got the lovely, we got the talented, we got the sexy Queen Nesha in the building. Say what's up, Queen.
What's up, beautiful people?
And we back to y'all with another video today. All right. Today we're gonna be talking about For Real Though reacts to Rickey Smiley's parenting advice to parents with grown and entitled kids. It was recently reported that Rickey Smiley's son, Brandon Smiley, passed away at age 32. Such a tragic thing. I know that's one of the things for sure as parents that we want to outlive our kids. We never want to have to bury our kids. So that's sad. We want to definitely send all of our prayers and condolences out to Rickey Smiley and his family during this time. We're definitely big fans of Rickey Smiley here at For Real Though. So we just want to big him up and say shout out to Rickey Smiley. Praying for you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. You inspire a lot of parents and a lot of people. Rickey Smiley stated on record in an interview that he has 10 kids, 2 of them biologically his, and the rest are a mix of adopted kids and nieces and nephews that he's cared for. He also stated that he raised 15 kids throughout his life and has grandkids now. Rickey Smiley is well known for his parenting videos when he encourages parents and shares tips from his own personal experiences on how parents should handle their kids in certain situations, right? I recently saw a video that he released about a year ago, looks like May 2022, where he kind of spoke to parents about grown and entitled kids, right? We should be able to drop a link here for you. Check out this preview.
Sitting here, talking about kids, and I just want to speak this morning to parents, with grown kids. All you parents with grown, entitled kids, and I just want to shout out all the parents this morning that did their very best to make sure that your kids have everything they need, from toiletries to clothes to school uniforms, sports, and back and forth to basketball practice, football practice, trying to get dinner, trying to wash, fold clothes, or whatever, only for your kid that you make sacrifices for to grow up. And I tell you that you wasn't there for me, and you didn't do enough stuff for me, and you didn't do this, and you didn't do that, or whatever. I want to free you today and let you know that you are awesome. And if don't nobody appreciate you and know the struggle, I do. And I understand, and I just want to empower you today to not feel guilty about having to work. I don't care what these damn kids say or whatever. Military people, people that's in the military have to go overseas to Afghanistan, Iraq, or Japan or anywhere else to fight a war or be stationed and be gone for months at a time. And you got some kids around here complaining and griping or whatever because you gone, for a weekend or whatever. And no matter what your situation is with your kids or whatever, they start feeling that way and getting older, or somebody get in their head and start talking them against you, go to bed with confidence that you did everything you could do to be the best parent you can be. And we're not talking about perfection, because there ain't no perfect parent. Now, I know I'm not perfect, but to have kids sit there and I don't feel like you love me, letting people run all these damn mind games on you, and they got everything that got so psychological and clinical to common sense has been thrown out of the window. My granddaddy just wasn't having it. And it ain't a damn thing wrong with the way my grandparents raised me. They did the best they could with what they had. And God rest their soul. I tried to run that mess on my granddaddy one time. My granddaddy grabbed me and put me up against the door and had me around my neck when I was 19. I tried it. You understand? I just want you to feel confident and go to bed, and you don't owe these kids nothing. Especially these grown Negroes you done got braces for and done worked and scrapped and worked all night and worked extra jobs to do what you can for your kids, only for them to grow up and turn out the way some of them have turned out, making the decisions that they make, and you try to teach them the right way to do things the right way, how to be a man, how to be responsible, and not just by giving them everything. You made them get out there and cut the grass and do chores and try to make a man out of them. Some of them just choose bad. Some of them just choose bad. Some of them choose to smoke weed. Some of them choose to drink. Some of them choose to go left when you say go right, just because they want to do something different and they want to do what they want to do. So I want to free you today and tell every good, hard-working parent that who your child didn't turn out the way that you hoped for. And I'm not saying give up on them or whatever, but you don't have to be harassed or abused. You can block their ass if they sending crazy text messages and doing things and being disrespectful. Hey, create space for yourself, because you got other kids. You got nieces and nephews that's out there doing the right thing and trying to do stuff. You got a nephew that don't have a dad. Go help him. You got a kid down the street that don't have a dad. Go help him. You got a niece and two kids down the street where there's no man in the household. Put all that energy and all those resources to them. Help somebody else that would appreciate, because it ain't about biological genes. It ain't. It's about who's receiving. Do you know how many text messages I get from kids that I'm not biologically connected to? Young men in their 30s that got their own business saying, thank you, Uncle Ricky, for the opportunity. Call me Unc. From rappers to NBA players to NFL. I was in Miami and you should have saw Derrick Henry running at me full speed to give me a hug. And just to show you how impact, like yours don't have to love you, but you got some folks out there that really love you and that would really, really appreciate you for just a hug and just a positive word and just being a good role model. And it seems like the one that you ain't did nothing for are the ones that appreciate you the most. The ones you ain't gave nothing to, ain't bought no clothes for, ain't paid no tuition for. Those are the ones that appreciate you the most. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. I love you. I was just thinking about you. And got a niece down there in Houston that's a optometrist, whatever. She operate on your eyes or whatever. And just texting all day yesterday. I just love you. I just appreciate you. And this is my niece from a divorce. On my ex-wife's side that still embraced me and just remembered how I treated her when she was 2 and 3 years old or whatever. And I'm telling y'all, man, God restores and replaces. Stop being obsessed with your biological gene kids that don't appreciate you and get with somebody that absolutely love you. I got somewhere to go if I get sick and can't get up and go to the bathroom for myself or hand myself a glass of water. I got plenty of places. I'm going to have plenty of choices because I put so much out there. I got people. See, man, God replaces and restores, and I want you to know that you are loved, that somebody think enough of you, and you are not thrown away. Don't let these grown-ass kids and kids that you tried to help and tried to raise and tried to do for make you feel guilty for doing the best that you can. They can go to hell and block them from your phone, and don't let none of the energy get in your system, and take all that positive energy that you would have poured into them, pour it into somebody else that need it. God bless you, and shout out to all parents that put forth the best effort they could this morning. Shout out to you this morning. And this message is for you, and I hope you are encouraged by this and keep doing what you're doing, but go help somebody else.
All right, that was the video. We will leave a description, leave a link in the description for you guys to check it out there as well. Parents, do we owe grown kids an explanation for their trauma, for their traumatic upbringing? Parents, do we owe grown kids an explanation for their traumatic upbringing? All right. So I want to open it up to Queen. Queen, what you think? Kids who say that their upbringing was traumatic, as parents do parents owe them an explanation for that?
Is this just for grown kids?
The
question was read the question again.
Do we owe grown kids an explanation for their traumatic upbringing? Okay. So grown kids, we can say anywhere from like 17 up to like 25 and beyond.
So what are your thoughts behind it?
Well, I asked you first.
No, but I'm interested to hear your perspective on it.
So, explanation, I don't like the word explanation, but it definitely warrants a conversation, in my opinion. If I'm raising a kid, right, and then my kid is an adult now, my kid comes back to me and say, hey, Pops, I want to talk to you. Like, some of the things when I grew up was traumatic for me, and I got trauma and I got issues that I'm still dealing with from to this very day based on how I was parented and how I was brought up, and I wanted to talk to you about it. I think if my kid comes to me with that type of tone and that type of mindset, it's definitely it warrants a conversation. So I guess technically speaking, I guess you can say my answer is yes. It does require some sort of explanation. What do you think?
So for me, I think that do you owe explanation for your grown kids' trauma? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I watched the video and he had a lot of different kind of takes on it.
Right.
It was a lot to unpack, but ultimately, if you're the parent, you are parenting. As your child gets older and grown, yes, your kids always have the freedom of choice, especially when they get older.
Right.
So if your child gets grown, once they become grown and they don't live up to the expectation that you have for them, or you feel like they're not choosing or making the best choices in life, that's exactly what it is. That's their choice. So some parents do guilt trip and take it to heart. But I think the bigger thing is to ask yourself the question, why are you feeling guilty? I mean, if you know that as a parent you did the best that you could do with the tools that you had. I mean, God never said that parents would be perfect. No, parents make a ton of mistakes. I think the key thing is communication. But if your child grow up and they become now a young adult or a grown adult, and they come to you with something that affected them in their childhood, you absolutely owe an explanation. That conversation, they're asking you a question. If you don't feel like you did anything wrong, or you feel like, well, I did the best that I could, okay, I understand single parents. My mom for a long time was a single mom, and she worked. But if her working so much, I felt that she was an absent parent, that would affect me. And I might come back and holler at her and be like, well, I understand that you provided us with the best lifestyle, Mom. Like, I never wanted for anything or needed anything, but it would have been nice to have my mom. So I think still that your child is grown, you still have to have that conversation and still owe them that explanation of making them understand that what sacrifices you made as a parent, because they might not be privy to that. They might not completely understand that, even as they get grown. Like, how many of you still, to this day, grown as you are, still go to your mom, still go to your dad, go to your grandparents for advice?
Right.
For direction.
Right. A lot of people still do.
So the question really is, when are you ever really done parenting?
Right. But see, Rickey Smiley say, you don't owe no grown ass kids no explanation. I did the best that I could to provide for you and care for you. As a parent, worked my ass off. And a lot of what he was saying, I can actually identify with. Being a parent is a thankless job. Being a mom, being a dad, it's a selfless job. So we make uncomprehendable, if that's a word, sacrifices for them, right? That they don't even comprehend, they don't even understand how we put ourselves oftentimes in compromising situations, stressful circumstances to show up for them and make it happen for them. So a lot of times we could feel like they're being ungrateful just because they don't really understand all the sacrifices that we're putting in. But he made a comment on the video like, we working 2 and 3 jobs, working seemingly 100 hours a week, trying to make things happen for the household and providing for you all the necessities that you need, and running you back and forth to practice, and making sure you got everything you need for school, and taking you to the dentist and they talking about you need braces, which is like $3,000. We just got a bill for not too long ago twice. All of this stuff, right? And so then I understand what Rickey Smiley was speaking to, but I felt like he was speaking to a certain type of kid, or he was speaking to a certain type of parent who's dealing with a certain type of kid.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
It seems like in that video, he was talking about a parent who has a disrespectful kid, and that kid's tone is very argumentative or very disrespectful, because he mentioned like, you getting these crazy ass text messages and phone calls where they disrespect you, or they giving off vibes like they don't appreciate you or you weren't good enough, well, block their ass then. Don't let them stress you out. Stress kills people. And so a lot of what he was saying, I completely understand that. Just because it's such a thankless job. I mean,
I understand it from that perspective because, like I said, your child, as your child grow up, they have freedom of choice, right? Mm. So sometimes some kids just like to learn the hard way. Mm. I mean, that it is just what it is. So, I mean, maybe I think as parents, a lot of times we have our expectation for our kids. Like, this is my expectation for you, because in our minds, we see when they get 20, when they get 25, 30, like where we want them to be in their life. But that's not reality. They still have their own freedom of choice, which would lead them down whatever path that they choose by their choice. Mm-hmm. So my expectation for my kids, of course, my kids are younger, so my expectation is to make my expectation clear so they know what is expected of them as kids. But ultimately, as they get older, as they grow, as they evolve, my expectation is that they make the correct choices that aligns with what God has ordained for their life. Mm-hmm. That they live up to the expectation that God has for them. Not what I necessarily have for them. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying, oh, you have to be a dentist, and if you don't be a dentist, I'm going to be disappointed. But I do think Rickey Smiley was talking about a specific type of child. Sometimes those kids, and we've been there where we learn the hard way, and it just feels like no matter how many conversations I have with him or her, like, I cannot get through. They're not, like, you kind of get at your wits end, like, what do I do? And the only thing you know to do is to give tough love to that child. But some parents do guilt trip, and then they feel like they gotta take it, like endure that kid being disrespectful. That kid just, you're doing everything you can, especially if you have already explained to them and had those conversations, and they still kind of like to hold that over your head. Then no, you don't have to deal with that. Like, me personally though, I can't see myself ever blocking my child. Because just the way my mind thinks though, like, if the moment I block him and he in a situation and he does truly need me, he can't get through to me. But no, I'm not going to take no, abusive behavior or abusive, like, conversation or
even
wording,
verbally,
like,
abusive.
Yeah, like that's just crazy.
Another part though too is it makes me think about financially too, right? So there may be, you might be down on your luck, or it's hard. Single parents. I was raised in a single parent household as well. It was just my mom, and my grandmother helped out a little bit too, but it was really just my mom. And so you have some kids who feel like they were deserving of a certain type of lifestyle but that's because they're comparing themselves to other kids around them, right? And I understand the necessities, right? The necessities, like, I need shoes. I need, my jeans is flooding now. Like, I need clothes. I completely understand that. But if you have the necessities that you need, it ain't about really, how much you give to them. It's more so about, and we say this all the time, if I put enough in them, I don't have to worry so much about what I give to them. But then also, oftentimes, just based on how we grew up, we want to give our kids everything. We want to give our kids everything that we never had. But then are we helping them or harming them in a lot of that? And we've been guilty of it.
But I don't necessarily think it's...
Just because when you give your kids everything, then it's just like, if you grew up with not having everything, you had the necessities, but you didn't have everything. It gave you an extra edge to work hard for the things that you wanted. It taught you to appreciate. If you had to say, you know, you in high school or whatever, you got you a little job, or you got a little hustle, you shoveling snow or raking leaves, and you earning money on your own. You got a better understanding of the value of $1. You're not so quick to just blow $200 that you had to bust your butt to work for and save up, because it costed you something. But when we give our kids everything and it costs them nothing, they don't appreciate it. They don't respect it the same way. So it's just like, it oftentimes make me question too, when you give your kids everything, are you also hindering them in the same token?
But whose fault is that?
What do you mean?
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's still your job to parent your child. You're setting and creating a false narrative. If you're giving them everything without showing them or letting them into the real world reality of what it really took for you to create this for them, or to give them this, or to provide this for them, like, you are setting, in my opinion, you're setting them up for failure. They're going to get out in the real world, and life is going to happen, and there's going to be no type of tools inside of them, no type of self-reality check that they will be able to apply to themselves, because in their house, I don't have to work that hard for that. Like, what are you talking about? I can just get it. No, you're creating a false narrative. Even if you do have it, you still have to explain and shine the light on what hard work looks like.
And oftentimes you may hear kids say, "Well, you're my parent. You're supposed to. You know, you're supposed to make sure that I have everything that I need. What are you complaining about? You're supposed to, you know, make sure I have a ride to and fro, or I make sure I have a way to get the things that I need." Yeah, and that is true. But because you need some jeans and you need some clothes and you need some shoes, don't mean they have to be name brand. Don't mean you have to have Jordans on your feet just because everybody else around you got them. And so that's where I think it get twisted at too. I mean, we're so worried about keeping up with the Joneses and what somebody else got, what somebody else is doing. And we tell our kids all the time, like, you don't got to do what everybody else do. Our youngest son, Aaron, he's 11 now, but since he was 8 or 9, he wanted a cell phone. Well, everybody in my classroom got a cell phone. I'm the only one that ain't got one. So what? You don't need no cell phone right now. For what? You ain't got to have something just because everybody else around you got it. Another thing too, and you kind of hinted to it earlier, or mentioned it earlier, and I want to bring it back. Another thing that some of the parents say too is, you made poor decisions and caused a lot of your own trauma based on the decisions that you made.
Yes, that's when they got grown though.
Right.
But I want to like put a pin in that and circle back to it, because you said something. You said when your kids, because we know all of our kids have done it, especially when they hit teenager age. We have one teenager and we have one child that's not a teenager, and they hit you with that phrase, well, you're the parent, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to give me a ride. You're supposed to take me to school. You're supposed to fix my lunch. No, the hell I'm not. No, I'm not. Just because, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're creating this false reality when you just kind of let that slide and you don't explain to them in real time what you are really supposed to do as a parent. No, it's my job to teach you. And so it's my job to protect you. It's my job to educate you. It's my job to correct and redirect you. Yes, because I want to educate you, I'm going to take you to school. But I don't have to take you to school. You can catch the bus. You can catch an Uber. You can carpool. There's 1,000 things, other things that I could do to make sure you got to school other than me physically taking you to school.
Or you can dry them hush puppies you got on your feet.
But that's what I'm saying. When we
did.
when we do not explain that to our kids, I feel like we are setting that false narrative. We need to let them in on more conversations.
That's a fact.
It's more financial conversations. I'm not saying, you know, go and tell them all of your business.
Like, hey, we struggling. We ain't got it.
No,
you ain't got to do all that.
No, but what I am saying is that you release enough according to their understanding, according to you know what capacity they could retain as being the child.
Right.
You're not equipping them. Like they're not equipped
right.
at all.
And so oftentimes the monster you have oftentimes is the monster you create. Slowly but surely, gradually. Because in those situations where that entitlement would show itself, like Queen said, you didn't nip it in the bud and address it in real time. You let stuff slide, or you never talked to them about it, or you just didn't open it up open the conversation up enough to really make them understand so they can appreciate it. No, I'm not going to just buy you some $300 pair of shoes just because of X, Y, and Z. Me and your mom got a budget that we operate within. That's not a top priority. That's not in the budget right now, G.
And sometimes when you explain things to them, it provokes thought. Like you're planting to see a budget. What's a budget? Mm-hmm. Because to them, again, you're just doing this.
Right.
Have that financial conversation. And that saying, I kind of don't agree with that saying either. Oftentimes, or most of the times, the monster you're dealing with is the monster that you created. I know that to me, that's a historical saying that people say. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the monster that you are dealing with is the monster that the environment or they encountered somebody that wasn't good for them and turned them. And you're like, what type of who is this person? Mm-hmm. I didn't raise you to be lazy. Mm-hmm. You saw me work hard. I had conversations with you about me working hard. I brought you along. You know what it takes to run a business. You're not handling yourself accordingly to how I know I raised you.
Right, but on that same token, if you see behavior that's not conducive to who you raise them to be and you don't check it, you become complicit. If you see flaws and you don't correct it, you become complicit. And that's what they really mean when they say the monster you have is the monster that you created. Because you didn't correct and redirect.
That part is true.
And you knew it was wrong, but you didn't say nothing because you was caught up doing something or for whatever reason.
But when they are grown,
it's gradually.
It is gradual. It's not though. Because how many times when you are grown, young woman, you hit your 20s, or you a grown man and you're 20, you're 21, and you're not living in your parents' household anymore. Sometimes as parents, you loosen the reins. Mm-hmm. Even if you're 30, 35, 40, whatever. Like, not 40, come on. Like, look at me. You're just way too grown for that. You need to have your life together. No, but seriously, like, your parents don't, if you are, let's just hypothetically, like you're 30, 31, and you are just full of shenanigans, your parent they might be like, I'm not going to correct and redirect you. You 30 years old. Like, you need to learn. You need to figure it out. You need to navigate through these deep waters by yourself to teach you. Because you are at a certain age where you can't always parent in infant stage and toddler stage. You just can't.
Right. And
once you grow up and you can swim in deep water, you making decisions that's not conducive to your life. As a parent, yeah, I'm disappointed. Mm. Because again, I feel like that's not who I raised. I wanted more for you. But where you are in your life right now is a result of the decisions that you have made. So if you don't like your life right now, you need to do something to change it. What are you doing? Do something about it.
Facts. Now, but we know there's a double-sided coin to this, right? There's always a flip side. So we have a lot of the kids who are adults now who recognize that they have traumas, and they recognize, yeah, I understand there's no perfect parents, but you had some flaws. Like, you had some things that wasn't right in the way that you parented us, and I got trauma now because of it. I'm affected by my friendships, my relationships, and I can't shake it. And it's difficult for me to connect. So I'm trying to come back to the source. And they feel like you as the parent are avoiding accountability. Like, I'm trying to have a conversation with you about how I feel and how you made me feel growing up. I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards you, but you're not even open to the conversation. I did the best I could. I did the best I could. I don't owe no explanation to no grown-ass kids. I did the best that I could, and you just need to get over it. Or I can't change the past.
But it's that. It's the lack of accountability, ignorance. Like, you're being ignorant to the fact that they are coming to you. They have enough emotional intelligence and awareness to realize, I'm dealing with this issue. What was the root cause of this issue? Oh, that's where it came from. Because I didn't get this, so now I'm overcompensating for this. And they're coming to you trying to tell you that. They might not even be, a lot of times when somebody comes to you with an issue, they're not even all the time necessarily looking for you to say sorry.
Right.
They're just looking for you to hear them out.
And they want to understand
empathy. Because, and a lot of times when you can provide, especially from a child coming to a parent, when you can understand where their state of mind was in that chapter where you might have felt lack, you can now my anger or my disappointment in you is replaced now with empathy. Now I empathize with you as being my parent. I don't feel sorry, but I empathize. I give grace. The older me now gives grace to my parent because I understand. A lot of times the kid just don't understand.
Right.
So to say that you don't owe an explanation to your grown kid's trauma, that's crazy.
I disagree with that.
But that's, you don't have to keep over explaining, but you do at least gotta be open to the conversation.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm not saying you're not gonna beat me down for my mistake. I'm gonna hear you out. But I'm taking that question as factual. Like, I don't owe you. I'm not saying like I have to seek out and seek you out to be like, okay, A, B, C, D. But if you come to me with something, I at least got to be open to the conversation as your parent.
But what if that parent is not? What if there's a kid who's in a place in their lives where they recognize that and they're trying to have this conversation and the parent's not even open to it? They instantly get defensive. I'm not dealing with that. Or I'm not talking about that. I did the best that I could. And they shut it down. So the kid gets no closure. They get no explanation. They're not even in a position to try to empathize because there's no conversation, or the parent just gets so defensive.
Because they're not ready to hear them out.
So what does the kid do then?
You got to realize where your parent is at. What type of parent you dealing with. What type of person you dealing with. Some people take away the title of parent. Like, all right, I heard you the first time. I heard you the second time. We talked about this. We're not going to keep talking about this.
That's different.
I know you messed up. You are. Or I don't even want to talk about it. But think deeper than that too. Like, sometimes, honestly, they could probably be embarrassed. Because they know they messed you up. They know the issues you dealing with is because of them. But they feel so bad as a parent, they already feel guilty. So you come into it with them, like you come into them with that issue. That's why they're so defensive. Why else does a person get so defensive?
Embarrassed, or there's hurt that they're holding on to that they don't really want to uncover or unpack, because 9 times out of 10 they might have had it. A lot of kids don't stop to think like, well, how was my parent parented? obviously she's raised me based on the wisdom and knowledge and the resources and the tools that she had available to her at that time. But how did she grow and get to the place that she was even at when she was parenting me? Mm-hmm. And so typically when you peel back the layers of that onion, you'll find that your parent might not have had a good upbringing themselves. And they was trying to be, their primary goal was just trying to be better for you than what they had. Mm-hmm. And even though they weren't perfect to you, it was still a whole hell of a lot better than what they had.
Was raised. But then listen to what you said. You said you don't agree with it. So are you saying you do agree that you don't owe grown kids an explanation?
No, I'm saying I agree with you. I don't agree that you don't owe the explanation.
Yeah, I think you owe the explanation.
I don't believe that you should be that closed-minded.
Yeah, I think God gave you this person. I do agree with Rickey Smiley that parenting doesn't just stop with your DNA. There's other kids that you could be an influence to or a mentor to or present in their life or in some capacity where you impact their life. I think as parents, we just hope that, I hope for myself, speaking for myself, that I put enough in them that sticks. That as they're growing, as we're raising them, everything we're pouring into them, not the things that we're giving to them, but everything we're pouring into them, that it builds a strong foundation so that when they get older, as they get older, they can activate different things in their life. They got a bucket to kind of draw from. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want them to be like a desert out here and just be thirsty. But that question, do we parent the way we were parented? In some forms, yes, we do, naturally.
Or the bar isn't set very high. A lot of times, not for all, but a lot of the time, your goal is to just be better for your kids than what you had for you. That still doesn't say that you're striving to be the best parent that you can be. You're just striving to be better than what you had. So even though you still may have some shortcomings, people get complacent in that and they get comfortable in that. Like, you was better than what I had.
But you know what? Just because I was better than what you had, that doesn't mean it was something that I necessarily needed. Mm-hmm. Because while you are so busy as a parent being better than your parent, mm-hmm. you could be missing a whole other side of me because you're not tapped in and you're not present to me.
Facts.
You're not present to your child and who your child is as a person. So I came across this thing, and I've actually heard it before. It's called gentle parenting. And I thought to myself, like, I'm going to read to you what gentle parenting is if you don't know. Mm. So gentle parenting is an evidence-based approach to raising happy, confident children. This parenting style is composed of 4 main elements: empathy, respect, understanding, and boundaries, and focuses on fostering the qualities that you want your child to become: compassionate, enforcing consistency and boundaries. Mm. When I first heard gentle parenting, and I think it was a initial reaction, like thought to myself, like, what the hell? People coming up with all these new titles. Everything gotta have a title now.
Right.
But reading the actual definition of what gentle parenting is, would you say that we subscribe to gentle parenting without even knowing that we were gentle parenting?
Absolutely.
Like, I was just like reading it, I'm like,
we do that.
That's a lot of empathy, respect, and understanding and boundaries. It's one of the other episodes one episode that we did, we talked about being friends with your kid. I think I said something like, we cool, but we not friends. That's boundaries. Like, that's boundaries. But I said all that to say, I think some of us was raised from a generation that the evidence of how you was raising us wasn't shown. It wasn't displayed all the time because they didn't have it or they didn't see it. They were so busy trying to be better than the parents that they had.
For instance, can I give an example? It's very common for a lot of guys to not show emotion to their kids, right? It's very common for a lot of guys, not all, but a lot of guys to not open up emotionally to try to connect with their kids, right? But one of the main go-to responses that a man will say is, well, I put a roof over your head. I provide for you. That's how you know I love you. And they think that that's enough, right? And so oftentimes that particular parent may have come up in a household where love wasn't outwardly displayed, or affection, because you do have to show your kids affection. It wasn't outwardly displayed. Y'all didn't talk like that. You show love through action, through what you did for them. But the kids don't just know that. And you expect them to just know that and understand that, but they don't. And that was okay for you, but that may not be what they need. And so what I'm getting at and what I'm saying that to say is, some of us were raised on survival and some of us were raised on love. And there is a difference. Like when you raised on survival, it's like your parent may teach you everything about taking care of yourself and making shit happen and being independent and being ambitious and going to get it. But when it comes to emotional intelligence, you're lacking. When it comes to being able to connect emotionally, you're lacking. When it comes to being codependent, and once you enter into a partnership and having to rely on someone else, you're lacking. When it comes to allowing yourself to be vulnerable and let your guard down to connect emotionally, you're lacking. And then from a woman's standpoint, I've actually had conversations where I heard a lot of women say, well, my mom just told me how to be independent. She just raised me to be strong and independent, and you don't need a man for anything. It's nice to have a man, but you don't need a man. And, you know, I can take care of myself and I can do for myself. And so then once you find a man, a lot of women lose them because they struggle with the connect piece. Because they didn't see that, or they weren't taught that. That's not a tool that they were given. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. And I think that actually would be a very good topic. And you guys let us know what you think about it. My thought process behind that made me think about gender roles in a marriage or gender roles in a partnership. Like, do you subscribe to gender roles in your marriage or your partnership? Or do you subscribe to serving your partner?
That would be a good topic. There is one other thing, too, that I want to make sure that I cover. So, circling back to Rickey Smiley's video, and he was talking about a certain type of child, a disrespectful child. But you have a lot of kids, they're grown adults, but we're calling them kids for the sake of conversation. You have a lot of kids who say, a lot of parents are quick to throw in that disrespect label, or that
what do you mean?
So oftentimes a lot of kids say that the parents love to try to label them as disrespectful when they're saying something that the parent doesn't like or doesn't agree with. So why is it that every time I say something that you may disagree with, or it's hard for you to hear, oh, now I'm being disrespectful, and now you're not open to having a conversation. I'm not gonna deal with this disrespect. You're not gonna disrespect me because I did the best that I could. Okay, I understand that, but I'm just trying to tell you that maybe you weren't as good of a parent as you think that you were, and I'm just trying to open up and talk to you about it. I'm not gonna deal with no disrespectful ass. You know what I mean? And so it automatically goes to disrespect. What do you think about that?
Well, One thing though is
the kid disrespectful, or were you a shit parent? Like, this is the battle that we're having.
The reality of it is, it could be a little bit of both.
Talk about it.
It could be you're a messed up parent. Your parenting skills are
subpar.
You know, or your kid is disrespectful. So when you're throwing that statement at me, and I'm quote unquote labeling you as a disrespectful kid, one, how are you coming at me? Like, what's your tone? We have boys, so watch your tone.
Right.
Watch your tone, you know? Like, so you can say, I feel like you can, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. We often hear that as adults. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing as kids. Like, you're raising your kid or your child to be an confident child. Mm-hmm. We're raising our boys to be confident men of God, young kings. You know who you are, have confidence in who you are, comfortable in your own skin. Stand
up for yourself.
Yeah, but that comes with also being able to articulate how you feel. Mm-hmm. One, real time in that moment. Being able to check your emotions and articulate your emotions verbally, or being able to process what you're feeling and what you're thinking and coming back if it's affecting you in some type of way. Now, because I'm raising you like that, I have to be aware as a parent that, well, dang, I always tell them to, speak your mind. Speak up when you talk to somebody.
I gotta know some stuff is gonna come back.
Right. Especially when you are a young man. So I have to have the mindset to be open when you come to me with something. Especially, I feel like raising boys. I had to realize early on that your first impression of a woman respecting you, respecting your thoughts, respecting talking to you, not just showing you love and giving you love, but respecting and being able to hear you out when you're trying to articulate something in your emotions. From the time that you're little to young, your first impression or encounter of that is me.
Right. So
if you're young and you come to me and you're so emotionally upset, and I'm talking like, he's 5, 4, whatever, 4, 5, 6, and he's so upset, he's in tears, he's crying, and he's trying to get out what he needs to say because he's so emotionally like distraught, and I shut him down. What am I telling him? What you're feeling right now is not important.
Right.
What you're trying to, I didn't even teach you in that moment how to collect yourself.
Right.
All right, take a deep breath, collect yourself. What does collect yourself mean at 6 years old? Like, I'm not even teaching you that, I'm just shutting you down. So then women, when you see these other women disrespecting their men publicly, you want to go back and you talk about that. Well, that man was once a boy. What, like, we have to be mindful of how are we raising them. And sometimes we're not perfect as parents. And I feel like sometimes it's so easy for us to like get caught up in our own world and our own thing of trying to build legacy and build a better life that some things we can miss. And I do agree with Rickey Smiley. Be open to the conversation though. But when it gets toxic, you do need to cut some certain things off when it gets toxic.
I got a gem though. And I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt your thought, Queen. The gem is, if you do hear your kid out, one, you definitely have to validate their feelings. You have to validate how they feel. You can't shut them down. And for two, I acknowledge your part in it and take accountability.
Yeah.
Don't make them feel like they're crazy or act like the shit didn't happen the way that they perceived it to happen. You got to acknowledge how they feel, and you got to take accountability and own your part in it. You know what? You're right. During that time, I probably could have done some things different. You know, I was kind of wild. But just to give you a little bit of context so you can understand, I was in my early 20s. I've been on my own since I was 16. My parents didn't do X, Y, and Z for me. So when you open up and you take accountability and you give them some context into what your mentality and your thought process was during that time, they can understand. You're right. I definitely could have done some things different. But I'm going to be real with you. I was a single parent. It was just us. And I was riding for us. I didn't know how to connect with you emotionally and be about getting these bills paid and getting this money and making sure y'all had what y'all needed. So I kind of got tunnel focused on that. And I'm sorry that I made you feel like X, Y, and Z. But this is what I felt like I had to do to make sure I had to make some shit shake. Like, connect with them on that level. They can understand that. But when you don't validate how they felt, ooh, and I got another good question.
But I think that goes back to what we were saying. Be open to the conversation.
Be open to the conversation.
And
but when the conversation happens too, you still can't shut down. You still can't label them as being disrespectful and disregarding their feelings. But here's my question.
Again, though, it depends on
how
you
they
need
come.
to check their tone. How they coming at you. Because
delivery is everything.
Yes, you very well can. Because you can be coming at me with the correct information, but your approach is all wrong. It's all foul. You still got to have a level of respect. You do. You still got to have a level of respect. But sometimes, too, as parents, you could have a relationship that's so toxic that your kid, the only way for your kid to survive is your child is the one that's now, as a grown adult, put up healthy boundaries against you.
Yep.
Because you're so toxic. So I gotta protect, as me being your child, I love you, but I love you from afar. I can interact with you and then dip out. I respect you from afar. Like, me keeping my peace, I think that's another thing as adults, even as adults, that we don't always realize. Like, I could love you all day long from over there. There is a such thing called healthy boundaries. So absolutely, I can be labeled as being real disrespectful.
And so kids end up blocking their parents too, bro. It go both ways.
Absolutely. But are you
or they just cordial. They not gonna be disrespectful, but they ain't sticking around. They ain't coming over or calling you on the phone all the time or whatever. They just, hey, what's up? What's happening? And you guys don't have that relationship. But here's my question that I've been dying to ask you, because the convo is getting good. Is it possible to have two truths? You hear a lot of people say, ain't but one truth. The truth is the truth. Ain't but one truth. Is it possible that you can have more than one? I do.
I don't hear people say that.
I do.
I hear people say that it's two sides to every story. It's your truth, their truth, and then somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle.
But here's what I'm getting at, though. What if the way you perceive your truth and the way that your child perceives their truth are not aligned and different? Does that mean that one of you is wrong?
What? Now, perception.
I gotta listen. Let me break it down.
No, I get it.
Okay.
I get the question.
Okay.
I'm saying what, because that's my reaction to what you said. Like, okay. First thing, perception is just that. It's perception. Okay. Interpretation is just that. Interpretation.
Okay.
So we can have a conversation, and I can interpret this conversation very different than how you interpret the conversation. That doesn't make me wrong. However, what it does, the truth behind that is, you may not intend it to hurt my feelings, You may not have intended to offend me. The reality of it is you still did. So as a parent, I may not have intended to neglect your emotions. I may have thought I was taking care of your emotions. Your reality is that I did. I still did not give you what you needed as being your parent. You still needed more of something and less of something else. And I may have been overcompensating in another area. Because you're my child, because I love you, because I love the relationship, or you're my child, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to acknowledge that. That is your truth. Now, I didn't intend for that to happen, but I'm aware now that you brought it to me that happened. And I apologize for that. But in my eyes, that wasn't true, bro.
But how can you?
In my eyes, that wasn't true.
But you can't do that.
No, I'm saying in my eyes it wasn't true because that wasn't my perception.
But if you say that, I apologize, but...
No, I'm not saying say it in that moment, obviously. You can't say it in that moment.
But okay, so
you
how...
can't apologize and then say but after it.
And how can you apologize and not mean it?
I do mean it. I apologize. Okay, that's just like saying... If somebody come to you and they're like, okay, they're a friend, and they're like, okay, you hurt my feelings. And you're like, what the hell? What are you talking about? I did not hurt your feelings. But what you said hurt them. Do you ignore it, brush it off? Or do you acknowledge it and apologize, not so much for what you said, but I'm apologizing to you because I'm acknowledging how I made you feel. And because I care about the relationship, I don't want to hurt your feelings.
One thing I'm not going to do is just apologize without even understanding what I did. To me, that's just fake.
Well,
so
that's what I'm saying.
Let me get it out. So the first thing that I got to do is there's got to be a discovery process that's going on. I need to, for me to sincerely be able to apologize, I need to really understand how I hurt you. What did I say to you that hurt you?
But what if you understand? I'm not speaking in the context of you don't understand. I'm saying you understand, but you don't necessarily agree with it. Do you acknowledge and apologize for how what you said made that person feel versus apologizing because you feel like, well, what I said was still right? Now, it's kind of hard, or is it hard? Like, if you are a parent and your child is coming to you, you don't necessarily agree with what they're saying. That wasn't your intent. But however, just because it wasn't your intent, it doesn't erase the fact that it still happened. Do you still acknowledge how what you did or what you said made them feel?
Yes, you do.
So that's all I'm saying.
You still acknowledge it. You still apologize for how you made them feel. No buts, no extra. But just so you know, I did the best that I could, so none of that. You gotta sincerely hear them, listen to them, and that's another problem too. A lot of the kids is trying to tell you that you don't freaking listen, parents. Some of y'all not listening, and y'all just shutting them down. And so they can't talk to you because you don't listen. They can't even get it out. Nope, you disrespectful. I ain't talking to no disrespectful ass kids, but you're not even listening to me. Right? So I listen to them. I really try to put myself in their shoes and try to understand where they're coming from. Okay, boom. I said some things they found hurtful. I didn't realize that. I gotta own that. I'm sorry. I apologize. I never meant to do that. Boom. There's no buts. There's no ifs, ands, no justifications, period.
But is there a such thing as parenting too soft?
Yes, there is. Absolutely. Because if we isolate our kids, put our kids in a bubble, that requires a certain level of bacteria in order for our kids to get strong, right?
I do agree with that.
If we try to hide them away from the world and wrap them in bubble wrap, the moment, because the real world is not full of bubble wrap, it's not. They're gonna be about as green as a blade of grass once they get out here. Right? So you have to allow a certain level of bacteria
in your environment.
In the environment.
To help them grow.
To help them get strong and to help them grow.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there's parents who are too soft and don't challenge them. Mm. And kissing the boo-boos and all of that. And I'm always on your back a little bit about that, just because, Queen, I'm trying to raise young men. We're raising young men. Certain things tough love is real. I think tough love is a benefit in some scenarios.
Oh, put me on blast. But
that's no blast.
I don't feel bad about it. I mean, that's your truth. Again, that's his perception. that's your perception.
What the hell is going on here? What just happened? See how they be doing the Jedi mind trick, reverse psychology, spin it around. Now I feel like I'm in trouble. I said something. Do I need to apologize? Did I say something?
No, I'm not offended. Again, that's your intent. What's your intent? That's your perception.
No, but so I think we had some great topics, and we want to put the ball back in your guys' court. So we got 2 questions for y'all. Yeah. Tell us in the comments what y'all think. 1, do the parents owe explanation for a kid's traumatic upbringing? Yes or no? And then 2, can there be more than one truth? Right?
That question, can there be more than one truth?
Yeah.
Good question. Don't be afraid.
Because your truth is, I did the best that I could, and
right.
The kid's truth was, he was a shit parent. And
now there can be more than one side of a story. That, to me, what you just explained, that my interpretation of that example is, there can be more than one side of a story, but there is only one truth. So
is it?
Comment below. You let us know. Don't be afraid to put your true opinion. Put your experience. You let us know. Like, 1, 2, would you subscribe yourself to? I don't really like titles, low key, but would you say that you gentle parent and you didn't even realize that you were gentle parenting? Gentle parenting. I don't even like the title of that, gentle parenting. But the qualities, the qualities behind gentle parenting, I do find value in those.
Yeah, because it's just basically saying that you give more effort into their emotionally connecting with them, right? Aside from everything else, you're trying to connect more with them on an emotional level with the gentle.
You want them to be, the 4 key. Let me go to it for you guys. The 4 main elements of gentle parenting: empathy, respect, understanding, and boundaries. Mm-hmm. So think about that when you answer our 2 questions and you reflect back on the conversation here. And also, we'll put the link somewhere to watch Rickey Smiley's a clip of to watch the full video. So let us know what you think.
All right, I'm Jimmy Rills, aka Mr. King Energy.
I'm Queen Nesha.
And we're For Real Though. Thanks for tuning in. Till the next time. Peace.
Peace.
All right. You gotta take a couple pictures with me.
Dude, you pushing it. I'm sleeping in mud. I was holding on by a thread. We take pictures every episode. Like, pictures are still
like stills, but don't even worry about it.
Okay, we'll just take some. What do you want me to do? You always just have us lean in and look at the thing. How is that?
Don't worry about it.
How is that still?
Go ahead. I'll figure it out.
topic. I kind of threw in gentle parenting because
You did.
after I read through everything and I watched his video, it made me think about gentle parenting. So I went and looked it up and was like, well, that kind of ties with what we're talking about. So I want to know like the perspective of that, because really like
we didn't really get a chance to get into you never taught me any tools. The kids say you never taught me any tools to navigate successfully in the real world.
But we talked about that though. Like, what are you're not even giving, like, shutting them down and the effects that is going to have on them by shutting them down. Like, you're not giving them any tools. You're not teaching them how to articulate why they're in their emotions. You're not teaching them how to confront situations in real time. You have adults who can't articulate how they feel emotionally to someone.
Right. Let alone a kid.
No, or they get like so upset they can't even articulate in that moment, or even when they de-escalate how they feel. They don't even know how. Even that's why your kid is coming to you sideways and you feel like their tone is disrespectful because you never even taught them how to articulate something to you in a respectful way when they don't agree.
Right.
Like when Champ asks you why. Why? What are you talking about? I wasn't late. What do you mean? Basically, he's saying, what the fuck are you talking about? That did not happen. I was on time. How you figure? I was there and you weren't there. That's really what he's saying in between the lines. But think if you don't even teach them to even ask you why. There's a whole generation where you couldn't even ask why.
Right. And those are our parents.
Have you ever seen the movie Fences?
Not all the way through.
Did you see the scene in the backyard when his son said, "Why don't you like me?"
I think so. He said something like, "Cause don't nobody give a damn about being liked," or something like that.
Oh, he said, "What do you mean?" Like, first he said, "Wait, I can't hear you. What'd you say? Come closer." And his son was nervous, and he said, "I just always wonder why you never like me much." And he was like, my job is not to like you. My job is to provide for you. My job is to put, have you ever went hungry? No. Have you ever been cold? No. Have you ever not had the clothes on your back? My job is to provide for you. My job is to put clothes on your back. My job is to feed you. My job is not to like your black ass. The world doesn't like you. I don't have to like you. My job is to provide all the needs for you.
I disagree with that.
I do too, but that's really aligns kind of with that. I feel like that could be a whole nother topic. Like, I really feel like that could be a whole conversation.
Might just edit this convo in too.
Yeah, just like the conversation, the two questions that I asked. Like, what 2 questions did I ask? That I said I feel like would be a good episode.
I don't remember now. I had to go back and rewatch it and see.
Oh my God, it's like my brain is fried.
Yeah, my head is throbbing. I've been having a headache.